Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a really special session today with the key collaborators, design team, director and writer from Reaction Theatre. But first, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm privileged to be coming to you from the lands of the Gadigal and the Bidjigal, the Darug and the Dharawal peoples on the traditional unceded lands here in New South Wales, from the Blue Mountains to La Perouse and the beautiful ocean. These lands have had stories and performances told for thousands and thousands of years, and it is a great privilege to be here on this traditional lands. Always was and always will be Aboriginal land. We invite anyone who wishes to share where they're coming to, where they're coming from, in the meeting, in the chat, because we know that we have people from all around the world joining us today. It would be lovely to know where you're from and a little bit about you, if you wanted to pop that in the chat. Now, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the team from Reaction Theatre, who have come here today to share this incredible production that they have put together, Secret of the Raft, and they're going to unpack that a little bit for us. It's immersive, it's using different technologies. The way of designing it has been quite an unusual for Australia, unusual method of designing it, involving many key collaborators. I can't wait to kind of unpack that with Louise and Simon and Aron. But first, let me introduce you to our speakers, and then I will throw to Louise, who's going to share her screen, to tell us a little bit more about Reaction Theatre. But Louise is director, producer, and the artistic director of Reaction Theatre, based in Melbourne, Naarm, Victoria, Australia. She has directed and produced a range of Australian works, including Toby and La Souris Blanche at La Mama, and Appropriate Kissing for All Occasions by David Finnegan. Other credits include At the Water's Edge for St Kilda Palais and Bomb the Bass for the Melbourne Fringe. And her latest work, which we're discussing today, Secret of the Raft, blends 3D projection mapping, installation, and live immersive performance. It has been developed through several residencies with Arena Theatre Company and Cardinia Cultural Centre, and in collaboration with RMIT School of Design. Louise was awarded the prestigious Odyssée residency in France by the French Ministry of Culture and was selected for the Createch Digital Enterprise Mentoring Program, supported by Remix and Creative Australia. She has presented Secret of the Raft at Communicating the Arts Singapore in 2023, the Prague Quadrennial in 2024, and is going to present it at World Stage Design 2025 in Sharjah, the United Arab Emirates, to which many people are heading. One of her key collaborators in Secret of the Raft is Simon Curlis. Simon is a lecturer in industrial design at RMIT University Melbourne, specialising in industrial design practices, industrial design teaching, computer-aided design, sustainable mobility, and solar car design and innovation. Wow. Currently pursuing a PhD, Simon is developing a cutting-edge wheelchair for individuals with advanced degenerative multiple sclerosis. He has a career that bridges design, performance, and theatrical expression, and his expertise in design and fabrication has supported the creative vision of Secret of the Raft through a collaborative and sustainable approach. His work with Reaction flourished in 2019 and has been showcased at the RMIT Black Box Theatre. His practice emphasises mission-driven projects, pushing the boundaries of innovation in both industrial and performance design. That is complemented by the lovely Aron Murray. Welcome, Aron. Aron is a lighting and video designer, passionate about creating immersive live performance designs. He received his formal performing arts training from the National Institute of Dramatic Art, NIDA, where I'm coming to you from today. And Aron holds a Master of Fine Arts in Design for Performance and a Bachelor of Fine Art in Technical Theatre and Stage Management. He enjoys the unique creative opportunities offered in independent theatre, and in the past has worked on productions including Halftime the Musical at the Hayes in 2021, sorry, Aron, you're probably in high school in 2011. This Genuine Moment at La Mama, Bad Machine at the Casula Powerhouse, and In the Club at Theatre Works in 2023, and Arlington at the Seymour Centre in 2024. Now, Tessa will be putting Aron's and Simon's and Reaction Theatre's, as well as some of the other key collaborators, social media handles and websites into the chat as we progress through today's conversation. Whew, now, that is a very epic CV list to share with our audience, Louise. And I welcome the three of you. It's such a privilege to have you in the room with us today. Louise, I might invite you to share your screen because I believe you're going to give us a little bit of an intro to the work of Reaction Theatre and sort of leading to the development of Secret of the Raft.
Thank you so much for having us. We are equally delighted to be here, and it's just a real pleasure to be in the room, whether you're a designer, a student, a creative thinker, or just curious about how space shapes stories and emotions in today's media-saturated world. Welcome to this talk today. My name's Louise Howlett, and I'm the Artistic Director of Reaction Theatre. And it's wonderful to be able to share our latest work, which is Secret of the Raft, as we've heard, which is a bilingual hybrid performance that reimagines an iconic painting called The Raft of the Medusa for a contemporary audience. First of all, I also would like to acknowledge that Reaction Theatre and RMIT University work on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations in Naarm, and we pay our respects to elders past and present, and we acknowledge their enduring connection to land, water and storytelling. We honour their ongoing story as we share the story of the raft. More broadly, I would love to open up a conversation about how digital tools, especially real-time engines like Unreal, are changing the way we think about scenography and define performance. As we know, technology is developing faster than ever, and it's opening up new artistic possibilities we could never have imagined before. I am not a designer and I'm not a creative technologist. I'm the director of the show, but the tools coming out of the fields are becoming more and more relevant and prevalent to theatre. They're expanding what's possible on stage, and they're challenging how we think about story, time, and emotional connection. Secret of the Raft doesn't fit comfortably in any single genre. With this work, we were drawn to the edges where theatre blurs into installation and where live performance intersects with the digital space. We're also committed to sustainable practice. We're rethinking not just about what we're making, but how we're making it. And we have built these considerations into the work from the ground up. We wanted to experiment with visuals and emotional architecture, creating spaces that evoke feeling through scale, light, movement, and responsiveness. So Imogen asked me, like, what was the inspiration for this work? One of the inspirations was from a book by Alain de Botton, and he had a critique of art galleries that they can make art feel very distant or overly serious, and leaving little room for personal connection. Galleries can sometimes feel more like fortresses than places for real engagement. So using today's technology, we wanted to peel back the layers of a painting and bring it back to life and let it speak and put it back in its context and reveal the story behind it. We were drawn to a particular painting, which is called The Raft of the Medusa, and it's by Géricault, a French artist. It's based on a real event in 1816 when a a French frigate ran aground off the coast of Africa. And the captain, who was appointed by the king at the time for political reasons and hadn't sailed in over 20 years, ran the ship aground, and the officers took the lifeboats. So the upper classes took the lifeboats, and the lower classes were relegated to this makeshift raft. And there was about 147 of them. They were going to be towed to Africa, but just after a few hours of towing them, they actually cut the tow rope and left these people just drifting out to sea. Basically, obviously, they were never expected to be seen again. But after 13 days at sea, they did find 15 people, and these people had endured starvation, madness, and had even resorted to cannibalism. So the event became a national scandal, and that nearly toppled the monarchy at the time. Géricault's paintings was one of the first big artworks to take a real news event and treat it with the kind of emotion usually reserved for a myth or for a religious story. The painting really shocked people, and it really exposed the corruption of the time, and it became a very powerful act of protest. The painting's endured because its message is timeless, and it shows us what happens when governments fail, or when leaders neglect people, or when vulnerable communities are left to suffer. And it also points out the harsh realities of imperialism. It continues to resonate to this day because of contemporary issues such as the global refugee crisis, and it's even been interpreted by artists such as Banksy. So our work, Secret of the Raft, is a hybrid performance, and it weaves together many things: bilingual storytelling, installation, real-time digital scenography, built in the gaming software Unreal Engine. The story begins with a teenager and her mum that are in a very kind of oppressive gallery situation, and they are then transported across shifting landscapes from the battlefields, the Napoleonic battlefields, to Versailles, to a raft drifting out to sea. That the work isn't just about art, it's also about how we experience presence and absence in a world where we're constantly connected to devices. And it also explores the presence and absence of the characters themselves within the story. So instead of using technology as a spectacle, we wanted to make it part of the performance. And with Unreal Engine, the visuals shift instantly, and they change with the performers, almost like another character on stage. The visuals are moving with the story, and they help draw the audience deeper into the emotional world of the piece. Here we go. So what you'll see here is drawn from some of the creative developments that we have done. So while we've shared parts of the work with audiences, the full version is yet to be realised. But when we have had the opportunity to share some creative developments, we've had incredible responses from the audiences, and they've really loved the way the story unfolds across the physical and digital space. So I'd like to play you a clip now, which is from two of our creative developments, one with RMIT and one with the Cardinia Council. So Imogen, if you wouldn't mind sharing that clip, that would be fantastic.
No problem. I think this is going to come from Tessa's video. Thanks, Tessa. Just while Tessa's setting that up, Louise, this is very exciting to see this work. And I really liked how you were talking about this is not technology as spectacle, but perhaps we can talk a little bit more about that, but with you and Simon and Aron after this clip.
Yes.
De large par près de 5 mètres de haut. 5 meters high.
Non, excusez-moi, madame.
Madame, aidez-moi! Je suis blessé! Ils arrivent en force!
Yeah, it was a little bit glitchy, unfortunately. I did see someone say it was quite glitchy, so.
We will be sharing the links to both of those clips in the chat. So for anyone who found that a little bit tricky to follow, the links will go into the chat shortly. But what we saw there, Louise, was very clearly this sense of all-encompassing imagery that really, with the lights and the projections, just went and hit us as an audience. And to actually have been sitting in that room would have been quite extraordinary.
Yes, it is. It's very immediate. I think that's one of the beauties of using the projections is that they're very it's very instantaneous. But as we've spoken about previously, obviously combining projections that can be quite full on with more calmer and quieter ones so that we have the balance in a theatrical sense and the pacing, making sure that we don't overwhelm the audience too much with what we're doing. So, yes.
Yeah. And as just before we watched that, I was just referencing one of the sentences that you said, which is we are not using technology as spectacle, but as part of the storytelling mechanism. It's the digital scenography within the space. I think this is the perfect time to bring Simon into the conversation with us, to speak to us about how the collaboration with RMIT and Simon and his students across several departments began to develop this idea, or to take your idea and make it happen.
Thanks, Imogen.
Yes.
So Louise and I met through some mutual friends, some other design and performance academics in Melbourne. And I work at RMIT in Melbourne, of course. I'm in the School of Design and I teach industrial design honours graduates, one of whom was a student who was quite interested in theatre and working with sustainable theatre by effectively taking away set design and turning it to projection. And when I was talking to Louise, who had this amazing story that she was looking for ways of sharing, and that iconic picture of the frame of the raft of the Medusa just becoming the ocean and spilling out and engulfing the audience. And at that point, I was captivated, and I pulled in our student Jacob, and he was sold in about 5 minutes, and then started proposing a whole bunch of ideas. And then we developed this very rapid collaboration between designers, and we're product designers, so not necessarily theatre designers, but bringing a lot of those skills and then combining them with Louise's script and storytelling, and then working out how we would start working with the actors. At RMIT, we also have a group called MAGI, the Masters of Gaming, Animation and Innovation, I think it is. Interactivity. And so there's a lot of content creation in those spaces, which is where Unreal came into it. And then so we'd have this three-way collaboration between Louise as the creative director, and I had Jacob and myself developing a scene, which included a lot of dynamic elements. We've got effectively a sprung floor, which has a origami elements which would come out of the floor, and then the projection guys would render that surface, the surface that we were playing with, to help share the story.
Can I just jump in and say, I thought the origami floor was extraordinary. The way the boat suddenly leapt out of the ocean, that magic moment. I had to watch that video a couple of times before I realized how you were doing it.
Yeah, it was a real challenge to make the elements that would come out of the floor seamless. They had to sit completely flat. We had actors who would be rolling around on the floor. We didn't want them to get snagged in it. But then with quite seamless actions, they had to be able to fold these elements up to become a tent, to become the front of a boat, to become a fireplace that would then capture the light. And it's not 100% clear from the clip that we saw there, but when you start seeing that the floor comes up, and then you get these really clear layers, so that it's one of the difficulties with projection, that you're not going to have objects to reflect the light off. And so we had to find a dynamic problem-solving way to sort that out.
Was there a specific material that you and the students used for that reflective surface? Was that, because I imagine that you needed to sort of think into what wouldn't get marked or what was cleanable, and what qualities that material had in terms of reflectivity?
So at the original black box presentation, we were using MDF that we'd painted with ceiling white as our initial base, because we were testing out a lot of things. As industrial designers, we fail a long way to success, and we try out lots of things. We found that that involved conversations with the costume designer. We were trying to make sure that they were wearing shoes that were non-marking, and with the projection guys, looking at more reflective paints and finishes and surfaces, because that original curtain that we were shining off was actually just a white, like a theatre white in the background. But we're developing some more effective projection screens, with the difficulty that we have to be able to go into a theatre that might be all black and turn it all white in a very short amount of time.
Yes, and I know that the touring capability of this set is something that you have all discussed, because sustainability is sort of like a cornerstone of making this work tourable and movable. Aron, I know that I want to bring you in a little bit later in the timeline of the development, but a lot of this work that was done with the materials was before you came in as lighting director and designer, isn't that right? So a lot of these decisions were being formulated before you came in to determine the lighting.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. What if I could just take a jump back, Simon, to this engagement that you had with the students from Meiji, because they sound like extraordinary fellow creators and collaborators. Could you tell us a little bit about their process of working with you and Louise on developing the concepts. I know that, Louise, you've got a few images of their work and how
Yes.
they were constructing within the software.
Yeah, if I could just jump in, at the same time I met Simon, I coincidentally happened to meet Darren Verhagen, who's associate professor of digital media in the School of Design. And so it was kind of two fortuitous meetings at the same time. And from that point, we reached out to students and asked if anybody was interested. So Simon worked with Jacob Sandham, and we reached out to the Magi crew, and we found Sahaj Garg and Homie, who were working, doing their masters. And so we were all kind of brought together. And at that point in particular, this whole show was a concept. And I had no idea whether it would work. And with the can-do approach of the students and the staff, the lecturers and the associate professors and everybody there, the show really started to take a life of its own for the first time, and we saw that it could actually work. And so, yes, so this is some of Jacob's early ideation of what the white box might be. And certainly we had lots of fun time sitting around the big table up there at RMIT and talking about how we could possibly breathe life into this project here. But yeah, Simon, you probably have some things to add as well.
I think that all of the designers that were involved were incredibly generous with each other. We spent a lot of time sharing ideas and then trying to elevate each other's work. So one of the really amazing things to watch was the way that the digital designers work, and they're all vampires. They only work overnight, whereas the industrial designers tend to work during the day because we need the daylight. So when we put in that first small boat bow, it was something that hadn't quite translated in a lot of the thinking and conversations through to the digital designers, but they huddled in the corner for 15 minutes and then they went away and they quickly developed the rendering of that boat. So there's this very agile process where as soon as an opportunity comes up, people would jump onto it. And because it's digital, it's very quick at creating assets and then finding a way to project them onto the space.
And I think it's the sort of work where you do need everyone in the room all at once, because everything has to work symbiotically and things need adjusting in real time. So that is, yes, for them to be able to translate what is in my mind as a visual is a real skill, and it's a real testament to their fantastic work ethic and their designer skills and their visual imagination, which absolutely blew me away. And working with the RMIT crew was just an absolute dream. So yes, it was a brilliant collaboration.
Well, it sounds like it's really bringing in all these ideas around gamification, which are creating immersive three-dimensional worlds in which you, the gamer, are immersed and you traverse through. So taking those ideas and putting them into a theatre space so that the audience as a whole becomes the gamer within the space. And I think that's such an interesting concept. Now, and I just want to remind the audience that this was happening in 2018, 2019, before these large-scale productions were happening, like Van Gogh, the Van Gogh exhibition and the Da Vinci exhibition, which has recently been in Nam, which fill warehouses, and the audience participates by walking into the space and being overwhelmed by the digital projections around them. So this is very much more of a controlled parameter. It's in a way bringing it in much smaller. But you were developing this in 2019. I'd love to know, where has this gone where has this gone from now? Like from that first presentation in the RMIT Black Box Theatre, where has it moved? Because I know that we have now Christina Smith, a Melbourne-based designer, set designer, got involved, and we have Aron, who has also been involved as a lighting director and designer.
Yep. So at particular points, I've had some wonderful mentoring, and it comes to a point where the space needs to be defined. And a lot of times, working in this medium, people can think up the most incredible things, but a lot of the time, the question is, what space are we in? What space are we in? What's the dimensions, you know? And that can go, as Aron knows, around and round in circles as we try to define a space. So in the end, we worked in a black box type space. And Aron came on board. He had just graduated from NIDA, so we were very fortunate to meet Aron, who has been, and I've worked with Aron a few times now, a dream to work with, and also with Christina as well, which was absolutely fantastic. And finally, we defined a space, and Aron could go to work. So maybe, Aron, if you take it from here and explain a little bit about what you actually were confronted with and how you kind of put it all together.
Yeah, so I came on at a later stage after all this kind of incredible work had been done to develop the piece, to define, a space with Christina that the projection and lighting could work within. And so I think what's on the screen at the moment is the drawings of the current iteration of the show, which have these two kind of angled walls and an upstage wall and a floor. And so with Christina and everyone, we worked to make this work with projection specification that is relatively easily tourable, reducing the number of projectors and the kind of equipment that we need to project in that space.
I can see that you've got 5 projectors, is that right, from the ground plan?
7.
Yes, 2, 4, 6, 7.
And I think when we were chatting the other day, I was asking you how you know, which way the projectors were going, because I was asking, you know, were you back projecting or front projecting? And you were like, no, that we don't have the space to back project, so they're all at the front. But when I asked if you were keying the images, you were saying no, we're not. How do you ensure that the actors are not pushing shadows onto the floor, onto the walls?
Yeah, so we use a lot of I guess classical kind of cinema projection methodologies in this. So we're trying to project perpendicular to the surface to avoid as much keystoning and as much skewing of if you imagine like a video is an image made up of pixels, which forms a grid. And so you want to keep that grid as square to the surface as possible. So maintaining image quality and also brightness from the projector. In terms of avoiding casting images onto actors, there's I think top right corner, there's like a tiny image you can kind of see. We're using short throw lenses and the projectors are quite high, kind of level with the top of the surface. So you get, I think it's 1600, quite a tight clearance zone. I don't know, can you zoom in maybe?
I think individuals can zoom in on their screens if they wish to. But that's actually a really acute angle. I hadn't actually spotted that before. I'm so glad you pointed that out. That just means that the actors have a line beyond which they shouldn't step if they don't want their so in a way there's two parameters on the stage floor. There's the entire base of the stage floor, and then there's the sort of, in a way, the rectangle in which they work.
Yeah.
Would that be right?
Yeah.
So Imogen, at that point, there's also, so where the actor is, where the blocking is working, then there's also the content that the digital artists are putting into the space and what they can do at the.
Can you hear? Have you frozen?
I think we've lost Simon.
Yes.
That's all right. Aron, let's just throw to you.
Yeah.
We'll come back to you, Simon. You probably can hear us screaming into the void.
So,
Aron, yeah, so I was actually going to, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please continue.
No, you go.
I was going to ask you about the software that you're using, Unreal Engine. I know that Simon was mentioning that the students in the Masters of Gaming and Interactivity introduced Unreal Engine. Had you used that gaming software to create your designs beforehand, like before you met Reaction Theatre?
Yeah, so I've used Unreal Engine to create elements of a couple of projects over the last couple of years. So I had experience in Unreal Engine and how to take the content of Unreal Engine and form it into a theatrical framework. So for us in theatre, you know, a show is based on cues and has to have specific cue points that can be triggered, and playback has to be kind of reliable and repeatable. And that's not necessarily a native element of Unreal Engine. So there is like a layer that I kind of introduce, which takes these worlds, which I think you're about to see, and makes them kind of cueable and presentable in that space.
Right. So what are we looking at, Louise?
So what you're seeing here is Homie working in Unreal Engine, actually creating the world, which is the French Alps. And we needed a panorama of beautiful Alps and a cottage. And when I said to you the other day that you can literally move a mountain, you're about to see him move a mountain around. So this is quite an extraordinary tool that's for free, but you do obviously need to know how to is it for free, Aron? I think it's still free to use at the moment, but you do have to learn how to use it, and obviously that takes a bit of time and skill. So yeah.
Well, it's offered to students for development and for young designers as a development tool. And when things become commercial, they're expected to pay licensing.
Okay. So, yes.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's extraordinary for us to sort of see that in operation. Aron, how do you use it? You were just saying then that you take those sort of settings and you apply it to a theatre setting.
Yeah, so if you think about video content in a kind of traditional sense, it's usually video playback. So it's a kind of two-dimensional image that plays back in time. So if it was I guess at least loosely, if it's like a box, it only has one input, which is time, and then you get a frame back. And if you give it the time in the correct sequence, you get the correct sequence of frames and you get a motion picture. Whereas any engine content, and not just Unreal,
I think
any
Aron,
kind of engine. Oh, check 1, 2. Oh.
Yep, no, we've got you. You're slightly unstable.
Oh, sorry, I'll speak a bit slower. So yeah, with a traditional video, you give it a time and it gives you a frame, and that's how you get the image sequence. And with engine-based content, you have not only time, but you can give it, you know, a position. You can give it different inputs. You can give it actor positions and generate content. I guess the content is generated non-linearly or not in a set track.
What was the biggest challenge for you working within a space where the background is projected on all sides, but you also needed to light the actors within the sphere, within where the projections weren't? How have you approached that as a designer?
I think apart from the technical challenge, which is to, in the best way possible, keep the image off the actors so that the actors are separate from the space. So when they stand on the floor, they're not also covered in the floor, kind of thing, and their costumes are clear. But no, then it's a virtual space like this is lit like a traditional space if you think about it in terms of methodology. So in cinema and in theatre, you kind of use practical lights in the set used to motivate the lighting of that space. And so it's the same with digital content. You take the environment and that motivates a certain light from a certain direction, because you're trying to make the actor appear to be part of that world and make the light from that world appear to influence the actor. on the space.
And you can also put light into the projections as well, can't you, to actually use that light within the projected image to light the actors somewhat at points. Might not work all the time, but that's another technique, isn't it, that we've spoken about at times.
Well, I can
Yeah.
imagine, I mean, in the video that you shared with us, that moment where there's that explosion, I imagine then that you've got this exploding light on the screen, but the lighting that's lighting the performers is also needing to work in the same time frame with the same intensity. So kind of, it's almost like, yeah, it's being bilingual in the same way that the script is bilingual. It's sort of like, so you've got light speaking across two different platforms with each other. And I believe at this point too, there was a set by Christina Smith.
Yes. I just wanted to say also, Aron makes it sound very easy. And it really isn't. Some of the things that they're doing are incredibly skillful. And I think we approached, well, Christina, when we approached Christina, yes, it was about the practicalities. And she was saying, how are you getting your actors on and off stage? And that was one of the real things that needed to be solved. And so what we came up with was this incredibly elegant, so we go from our lighting design, incredibly elegant design by Christina, and where Aron is able to make a seamless make it seem as though it's seamless, even though there are two entrances, and has literally made the projection go around walls to not to interrupt the projected image. And Christina obviously designed the set, which is fantastic, and very. We're hoping once it's built, obviously very easy to pack up. We hope into a small truck and take with us when we tour. So that was the plan.
This is a good moment for me to ask you about the sustainability of the set and some of the conversations that you and Aron, Simon and Christina and your other collaborators had about making this a sustainable design. If you could sort of just, because and the reason I sort of bring that up is that's one of the pillars of world stage design in Sharjah this year is having a lighter footprint, and us as performance makers being very conscious of what our carbon footprint is and that of our sets. So yeah, if you could just give our audience a little bit of an insight into what was important, what you've made happen in order for it to be sustainable.
I suppose that it's basically getting the technology to do the bulk of the hard work of becoming a set. We also wanted it to be able to be packed down and be able to be transported easily. We have obviously the set pieces embedded into the design, into the floor. We're looking at different materials. I just have been sent this sample of recycled, reconstituted plastic from a company out in the country here in Victoria called the Plasticians, and so we've been starting to research some of our recycled and sustainable products that we might be able to use in the production of this work. And ultimately, we wanted it to be to use local crews if it does go into another country, to actually possibly just arrive even with a hard drive, and then use the local crews and the local artists to be able to build the set in situ. So, and Simon, would you add anything else there?
Yeah, when we were looking at the flooring elements, which is one of our big challenges, which we're looking at this recycled plastics for, we know that it's going to be useful for a certain amount of time. It's challenging to a lot of spaces which have got black floors or sprung floors for dance, but not necessarily good for projection. And so we're working with that company to develop something that's suitable for this, with the idea that when it becomes damaged or scuffed to a point that it's no longer serviceable, that we can then send it back to them. And so we've got a circular relationship with the manufacturers, which means that they are then developing more robust products. They're understanding what's possible and what's desirable for theatre, and they're able to evolve that material as we go. And it means that this kind of floor plate that you're looking at, which is like a tatami floor section, everything is 1,200 by 2,400 millimeters squares, that can all get folded into a road case that minimizes how much material we're sending from one place to another. Originally, we were looking at, if we had a small truck that we hired, how small a truck can we manage to fit everything in? For the fabric sections, we know that they can fold down or roll up to smaller sizes, and we're looking at just absolutely minimizing that footprint, and then also making it really easy to set up, so that an untrained with our set local technicians are able to deal with it really quickly.
I mean, I just did a show with Aron last year, and we used what did we use, Aron? A material, and it basically folded into a backpack, and it's amazing with projections how versatile they can be and how evocative the imagery can be with very simple materials. So yes.
And then we're also looking at, from our very original idea, was how far around we can bring that projection to the point that the audience is sitting in. At the moment, it's about 180, but we want to bring it back to 270. And eventually we'd like it to be in non-traditional theatre spaces, such as galleries, so that it can be a full 360 engagement. And that's really where the gaming engines and some of the projection really allows the audience to be in the fishbowl, as it were.
Christina also beautifully designed this very elegant set of sails that are going to go up in one of the scenes. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do this scene. This is one of the scenes that we really want to finish developing. We've got everything there ready to go. It's really just a chance to put it into a theatre space and see it in up and going. It'd be fantastic. So we're very excited for that. And yes, I suppose that's some of the modelling that that has been done. Did you do this modelling, Aron, or maybe it was Sahaj? I'm not sure. Sorry, but this is an impression of what we hope it would be like. And okay, we're up to probably the last part. Do I do a bit of a plug for the last?
Well, I was actually hoping to open up to the audience to ask you some questions, because I'm sure from the range of people in our audience, there will be many different questions about the journey of Secret of the Raft. So I would love to invite our participants to ask Louise or Aron or Simon a question about Secret of the Raft, if they have one. Thank you so much, Maureen, for your comment in the chats. I've just seen that now. I had a question in case anyone was feeling shy. I did actually have a backup question, but this is your last chance, audience, before I throw in an extra question, though this asking this may bring up some other questions. So of course, what's prompted this webinar series by ScenoLab was because you are one of the few Australian companies taking your work over to the ScenoFest as part of World Stage Design. And I'm just wondering if you wanted to tell us a little bit about how will people see it over in the Studio Theatre in Sharjah. And you can see that you've got a wonderful image. I love that image, by the way, of Secret of the Raft. I think it's so strong with that projected boat and the ocean. But yeah, how will this be presented in World Stage Design?
Basically, it's a talk, and it will be going on the 19th. It's a 1-hour talk in the Studio Theatre, which if you go to the website, you can read a bit more about it there. Yes, we have never been able to do the whole production, so we are really hoping that in the next year we can finish off the work and actually present it for the first time. That's our aim, and yes, it's the things coming up for us is that we have attracted interest from the Sydney Opera House, for example, to do a season there, and our final creative development will focus on the last 4 scenes. And we're currently seeking producing partners and sustainable touring opportunities to take this work around Australia and hopefully internationally as well.
Yes, how brilliant. And I'm sure, you know, as the more you share this, the more it's sparking ideas in people's heads. Just as Maureen said in the chat before, this is allowing people to think beyond what they've been taught in more traditional scenarios. And in fact, I would like to ask all of you, where has this collaboration led to in terms of your own work individually? Where are you taking your work now, but in theatre, in product design, in
Imogen, just before you do that, I just noticed there is another question in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
If you saw that one, yep.
No, I didn't. Thank you. I do have a question here. For students who are looking to consider set and lighting design for their performances, I think this is one for you, Aron. What advice would you give to them around adding this to their script? What considerations should they make? Actually, this is a question for all of you. I think you go first.
That's a great question. I think I don't know quite how to answer it specifically, but I think be brave and add the element if it works with the script, and always give it a go and try. Sorry.
I think it's probably, you would normally see those kind of instructions more in filmic or cinematic scripts, which are much more prescriptive as to the quality of the light or the location and the cinematic experience. Often in theatre performance, the lighting and the set design isn't given in the script because it's acknowledged that the artists will join after the script has been given to the director. So it's an interesting one. Maybe the considerations you should make as a student is to allow space for lighting and set and costume rather than being prescriptive, or make suggestions, like a suggested idea here as opposed to this must be, because there will always be, as you can see from today's talk, collaboration expands the possibility tenfold.
Imogen, I think that with the exception of Aron, who's in portrait mode, the rest of us are, older generation landscape mode type presenters. But my daughter, who's at a primary school down here, they presented Peter Pan, and the kids were designing the backgrounds and projecting them in that space. So I think that our young people are actually very adept at the technology. When they're given it to play with and experiment, they're coming up with really great ideas. And I think what this has taught me is that when you get into a room full of creatives who are respectful of each other and trying to support each other and being in the service of each other's craft, we get some really amazing results.
That is so true. And, you know, funnily enough, I was sitting in a design concept meeting yesterday, Simon, for Peter Pan, and there was the video designer who's a third-year student talking about her vision for the show, and a set looking remarkably similar to Secret of the Raft, I must say, in order to, you know, to capture the practicalities of projection on all surfaces.
At high schools and primary schools, there's a lot of art classes that will allow that the reluctant child who's got an idea to come forward and make it a feature of a performance. It could be a tree house or a bookcase or something in the background, but it allows for a lot more people to become engaged in the creative process.
Mm.
And Aron and I have gone on to work, although Aron unfortunately has never been able to see his design in real life for Secret of the Raft, but we have worked together on La Souris Blanche, which was the French production I did last year. And that was incredible work done by Aron, very evocative, and yes, it really elevated the whole production quality of that performance. And we did use subtitles for that. We actually, well, Aron actually worked out how to embed the subtitles into the actual design. So I think it's just about expanding what's possible in the space, and thinking more about integrating elements rather than seeing them as more siloed. I mean, I know we do talk about the elements and we get together and have production meetings, but maybe there are more conversations to be had around, can technology do the grunt work of this, rather than trying more traditional ways, I suppose. Yeah.
I just spotted Ashish has asked one technical question, Aron, which you might be able to answer quickly before we leave, about the use of projectors in space. How many lighting fixtures do you think are required in this production as projectors?
That's yeah, excellent question. I think I don't know if there's a specific number, but we kind of envisage a standard kind of grid, which is part of its sustainability and durability. So you have different structures of light. So you'll have a top light structure and a front light structure, and hopefully you have a minimum amount of kind of moving light or spotlight special kind of stuff, which is more expensive to get in different locations and harder to maintain.
Thank you. And that was a wonderful, very brief response. And I know that Ashish, who is also a lighting designer, will understand what you said, even though I didn't. But I mean that in full joking. But as a costume and set designer, I was like, I get it, sort of. Yes. Thank you so much. We've come to time. It's been an absolute pleasure to have the three of you joining us with ScenoLab today as part of our World Stage Design webinar series. Just today, we have set upon the next date for the next ScenoLab webinar, which will be Friday, August the 29th. And we will be speaking with a couple of designers and directors from across the ditch. Daniel Belton and Meg Rowlands from New Zealand will be joining us then. I'm just going to cue back to Tessa to do the final farewell. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Imogen. And so, yes, so Daniel Belton and Meg Rolandi will be joining us in the next session, so keep an eye out for that. You can find us at scenolab.com.au if you want to learn more about us and how to come and join us and be a part of our network. But thank you so much for today. We will upload this recording onto our website and share the link with everyone who registered if you'd like to share with anybody in your network. Other than that, thank you so much again to all of our speakers and to Imogen and to everyone who attended today. It's been a really amazing session. Thank you so much.